The most stacked division in the UFC, the welterweight division. UFC 330 is coming up in a few days, and it's headlined by the two best welterweights currently in the sport, Islam Makhachev and Ian Machado Gary. One of these fighters has just one fight in the welterweight division, while the other has 11. Yeah, the guy with one fight in the division is the champion. How is that possible? Well, Islam Makhachev is currently regarded as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the sport, and in my eyes, he's a top 3 fighter of all time. He only has one welterweight fight because he spent years dominating the lightweight division at 155 pounds. He's racked up a crazy resume throughout the lightweight reign, beating guys like Charles Oliveira, snapping his 11-fight win streak, Alexander Volkanovski twice when he was on a 22-fight win streak, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and a young Arman Tsarukyan. Yet when you beat guys like you did in the lightweight, you can jump the queue of this insanely loaded weight class. And the guy he's fighting next? Ian Machado Gary doesn't have the best PR when it comes to his online persona, but we can't take away the fact that he's pretty damn good in the octagon. He's not the most flashy, he's not gonna wow you, but he has insane fight IQ, and he's just so well-rounded. He knows how to win. He started his professional MMA career 15-0 before he took a short notice fight against the division's boogeyman at the time in Shavkat Rakhmonov. And yeah, he would have his moments in that fight, but he would lose a clear and obvious decision. However, it was very impressive at the time, considering Shavkat was known as a finishing machine with this 100% finish rate before that fight. Ian would actually rebound with another short notice fight, this time against Carlos Prates. And even though Carlos Prates was known as a finishing machine, Ian would somehow avoid getting finished and would actually steamroll Prates for 4 out of the 5 rounds, picking up an easy 49-46 decision win. And to secure his title shot, he would beat former champion Belal Muhammad with a clear decision win a few months later. Unlike many of the fighters in this division, Ian Gary is far from a finishing machine, but he just knows how to win. Speaking of finishing threats, Carlos Prates is literally that, a finishing threat. He's right behind Ian Gary in today's rankings because of that loss he suffered to him a year ago. However, Carlos would rebound in a crazy way with 3 highlight reel knockouts. One against Jeff Neal, one against Leon Edwards, and the most recent one coming against Jack Della Maddalena. Prates has racked up an extremely impressive resume due to his activity in the UFC, and out of all the fighters in this division, I think he has the biggest chance to be a superstar. If he isn't already, you know, he has a crazy, hilarious personality. He's just so likable, and in my opinion, he's definitely next in line for the title shot, so we should wait it out and see who wins this weekend. But if he does want another opponent to fight before then, Michael Morales. I feel like Carlos Prates and Michael Morales are the same exact person, but just in a different font. They're both tall and lanky and also possess insane KO power. And if these two ever fight, which I'm sure they will at some point, it would deadass just be a recreation of Hulk vs. Abomination. And that's why so many want to see this fight. But now is just not the time, considering Prates just has a way stronger resume compared to Michael Morales. With Morales' best win being Sean Brady, if he could rack up maybe one more impressive win, maybe against the loser of this weekend, I mean, he definitely deserves a title shot after that. You can't deny it. But his inactivity definitely shows on his resume. He does not have the highest of quality wins like a Carlos Prates. But regardless, he's still very young, and I definitely do think he'll be a champion at some point in his UFC career. Speaking of someone who was a champion at some point, Jack Della Maddalena. I alluded to him earlier in the video, but Jack Della Maddalena was the best welterweight on the planet just a few months ago. He was on an 18-fight win streak, and although he did win the belt off arguably one of the worst welterweight champions of all time, you can't deny how impressive an 18-fight win streak was. Unfortunately for JDM, his first title defense was going to be against Islam Makhachev, the pound-for-pound #1 fighter on the planet. And even though hindsight is 2020, the discourse around this fight, looking back on it, is hilarious. Many thought JDM could make it extremely difficult for Islam, and that there was a real chance he actually could pull it off. Yeah, nope, that's just not how it turned out. And to make it even worse, for his comeback fight in May, he would get shown absolute levels against Carlos Prates in his home country, getting TKO'd for the first time in his MMA career. After being a champion and on an 18-fight win streak, he is now on a 2-fight losing streak, looking for a bounce back. A lot of MMA, UFC fans on Twitter are turning on this man, saying he was never really that good, but I disagree. I think he's extremely talented. He's still very young. He definitely could figure it out. I mean, it's just unfortunate when you have to fight Islam and Carlos back to back. He's definitely on a downturn right now. However, a fighter that is on the rise, Gabriel Bonfim shot up the rankings from 14-5 with wins over Randy Brown and another win over Belal Muhammad. He put on an absolute clinic against Belal, who is a former champion in his own right. Like, I actually felt bad watching this fight. I'm not even gonna lie, bro. I don't even think Gabriel Bonfim was taking Belal serious at times. And although Bonfim did pick up this really solid win for his resume, he doesn't really have the strongest personality, so if you're a casual, chances are you've probably never heard of this guy ever. Regardless, he has set himself up for a huge fight in the division, and I can maybe see him getting a fight against Michael Morales, or maybe a little bit more realistic would maybe be JDM. I'm not holding my breath that he'll ever be a champion, but he is still extremely young, and he's still a strong talent in the division, and could definitely be a gatekeeper for years to come because he's so young, like I've said. Speaking of gatekeepers, Sean Brady, Belal Muhammad, Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, and Joaquin Buckley all sit outside the top 5. And with 3 of these guys being former champions, it's going to make life tough for someone to shoot up the rankings. In fact, Buckley and Brady did just fight back in May, and Brady did what just about any gatekeeper does, and that is absolutely dominate a fighter trying to make a jump. Like, he showed Joaquin Buckley absolute levels. You've also got Belal and Leon, who were on losing streaks in their own right. Kamaru Usman just tried moving up a weight class where he got smoked by DDP. And even though I'm mentioning all of their losses, these guys are fighting high-ranked and high-profile fighters. It's not like they're just fighting unranked cans. So this is still a very tough area to be in within the welterweight division, considering it's surrounded with championship-level fighters that aren't even in the top 5 of the division. But don't worry, the prospects are coming. Yaroslav Amosov and Uros Medic are 2 of the most entertaining and exciting risers in the welterweight division right now, and they are definitely due for a huge step up in competition. Amosov picked up a very impressive finish against Joel Alvarez, while Uros Medic sent Daniel Rodriguez to the Shadow Realm in just 30 seconds with an absurd combination. He deadass hit him with the same finishing combo Conor did against Eddie Alvarez a decade ago. That's how reminiscent it was. Just when you think this division couldn't get any more exciting, here come 2 more exciting prospects. Here come 2 more. Although Amosov is very exciting, I'm very intrigued to see what they do with Medic, because he just main evented in his home country and he had the place rocking. It seemed as if he has a real fan base behind him, and with his exciting fighting style and his wholesome personality, he probably will be expanding that fan base pretty soon. I could definitely see the UFC feeding him Belal Muhammad like they did to Bonfim, or maybe they toss him a guy like Leon Edwards. Regardless, the sky is the limit for these 2 welterweight risers. But unfortunately for this next guy, it might be the opposite. Shavkat Rakhmonov had this exact same hype a few years ago. An exciting striker with elite finishing abilities that many were expecting to take over the division. It was announced he would be fighting Belal Muhammad for the title back in late 2024, but Belal had to pull out due to an injury, which forced him to fight Ian Gary on short notice. He would pick up the win against Ian Gary, and it set him up perfectly for his next fight to be a championship. However, injuries would begin to set in, and this is where Shavkat had to be sidelined, and this is where JDM picked up the title shot against Belal Muhammad. Since that fight against Ian Gary in December of 2024, Shavkat hasn't fought since, as he's been on the road to recovery and getting healthy. And if Shavkat does manage to get healthy and come back to the sport, this is yet another high-profile fighter that is added to this already stacked welterweight division. If he does come back, is there a chance that he's probably not the same fighter? Yeah, there's a chance. But what if he is the same exact fighter? Hell, what if he's maybe even better than he was before? That would make this division even more exciting. Do you think the welterweight division is the most stacked division in the UFC? Do you think it's the most entertaining, or am I wrong? Let me know what you guys think.